I made a video yesterday which was called Having Fun with Vector Brushes, in which I showed how to make some vector brushes which I use these cross-stitch designs. I just want to elaborate on that a little bit more, and then using some of these brushes I'm going to make this mandala design. Now most mandala designs are sort of hand-drawn, which again is much more involved. This is a sort of a poor man's cheap way of doing it, using graphics rather than drawing tools, but it can be quite fun to see how it turns out. So first of all, we need to make a new brush tip. Now I'm going to be using this flower wreath, which I got from Pixabay.com, and I will add a link to this in the description for this video. It is a PNG file, which is what you need, but you can make a vector brush tip with any image as long as it's a PNG file really, and that you had the blank background. So if you want to use your own, you're going to have to sort of erase the background in whatever way you want, or you can get images from places like Pixabay.com. Now the only problem with this is if I come to File and Document Setup, as you can see it's quite a big document. It's 4000 by 3300 pixels, which is all well and good for some things that you may want to do, but I personally think this is a bit too big, quite a bit too big for a brush tip. It's not to say you can't make a brush tip out of this, but the computing power that the program will need to sort of keep trying to render a brush from such a big design, where by default it makes them 64 pixels every time, although you can increase and decrease that later on, but by default it's sort of 64. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the size of this to start off with. So I'm going to need a new document, and I'm going to go with, you can make it smaller if you want to, but I'm going to go with 400 pixels square, and then just click OK. And then I'm going to come to this image from Pixabay, and I'm just going to copy that and paste it on top of my new document, and as you can see it is huge by comparison. So I'll zoom out so I can see this document, and then I'm going to hold down the control key, and I'm guessing it's command on a Mac, and I'm going to click and drag one of the corners just to keep it all in proportion, and then just keep resizing till I've got that in position, and then press Control and 0 to resize, and then it's just a case of doing a bit of minor tweaking just to make sure that all of that image is inside my smaller background. So once I'm happy with that, I'm going to export this as a PNG. As you can see, the size is now 400 by 400, and I'm going to keep it as the whole document, and click on export, which I've already done previously, so I won't do it again. But once you click on export, you just have to rename it and save it, and remember where you've saved it. So I will close that because I don't need that anymore, and I don't need this anymore. And then I will open another new document, and this will be the 400 by 400 width, and I'll click OK. So now I need to import or make this new vector brush. Now, like in the first video, You can make a new category by creating a new category by clicking on this menu up here, or if you have an existing category that you want to put it into, you navigate to that, and once you have the one you want, it will place this new brush inside that category. So again, you just click on the menu and you come down to new textured image brush. You click on that and you navigate to the file that you have made, which in my case was the reef, which is 400 by 400. Click OK and then open, and it will make that new brush down the bottom here, and like I said, by default it makes it 64 in size, but I'm going to, as you can see, I have already previously done this when I first tested this. So all I've got to do now is double click on that brush to open up the editing, and what I'm going to do is change it from stretch to repeat, like that, and you can alter the width of this. I'm going to increase this to, let's make it, type this in and make it 85, repeat, and then you just click reset and then close. So now I have two of this reef, one size 64 and one size 85. So all I need to do now is to come to vector brush, select the brush I want. Now this is something that is quite important, which I only found out by mistake, because as you can see up here it says, at the moment it says color is black. So if I do this, these will come out black, whereas I want them to come out as a color, like I imported it. So what you have to do is click on that color swatch thing and then click on none, and then you can come away from that, and now when you do it you will get the colors like it was meant to be in the size that I want it to be. Now the only problem with the vector brush here is it is, if you sort of hold down the button while you're dragging, it will slowly draw them and then maybe a bit disfigured. This is not a perfect result. I'm not 100% certain how you make them perfectly, but if you only want the one, you just need to click and drag it slightly, and it is very only slightly, that's it, to get the perfect one. So it can be a bit hit and miss in that respect, but it does work. So let me just get rid of all of these layers for a second. This shift key, hold that one, and then right click, delete. So I'm back to my blank document. So it is from this document that I'm going to make a mandala from this brush and some others. Now the other ones I'm going to use are ones called Florals 1 by Visible Stories. Now Visible Stories is a website run by Angela H. Evans, who makes these, and she does sell them, but occasionally she does make them free to people that belong to the Visible Stories Facebook group, and also to the Facebook group Fans of Serif Software, which is how I got these ones, because these are some of the ones that she made free to the members of Fans of Serif Software. So these are all different flower brush tips that she has made. Now, although they are in various sizes, I'm suspecting that she has made them from really big brush images. If I just take this one for example, and I click and drag, as you can see it takes a while for the computer to catch up with the motion that I've just done. I'm guessing it's because they were from really big images rather than a smaller version which I made my reef from. So it's the computer power needed to make those takes a little while. I don't know that for sure, this is just my guess off the top of my head, but let me just press Ctrl and Z to get rid of that. So on with making this flowery mandala. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this background with black. So I'm going to come to the gradient tool. Oh, first of all I need a pixel layer, so I've added a pixel layer and I'm going to make that solid, and the color I'm going to make is black. Now it sort of really does have to be black for this to work the way I've seen it done, so I'm going to stick to having the black background. So let me go back to my reef one, which was the one I made earlier, which is down the bottom here. Come to the brush tool, make sure that is the one selected, and I'm going to make the brush size a bit bigger, and I'm going to put it roughly, if I can get this right, there we go. So just a quick click and slight drag just to get the one image. So I'm just going to make sure that that is centered horizontally, so I'll leave that one there. I'll then come back to Angela's brushes, and which one shall I go for? Let's try this orange one. I'll just increase the size of that slightly and then do one there, and then try this one here, and I'm just going to I'll leave that one there, and then we'll try a red one about there. So again I will center that red one horizontally, and I'll come to the move tool and I'll just should just be able to move this, but right, I'm happy with that. Yes, I will leave that at that. So now what I want is another new background that has much more space, because I'm going to be rotating these around. So I know this is 400 by 400, so I'm going to give myself, you need at least double if not triple the size you want. So that's going to be like triple is 1200 by 1200. So I'm going to go with new. I'm set on pixels, and I'm going to make that 1200 by 1200. Click OK. Now coming back to this image here, what I need to do is to either flatten all these, or what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click the top layer and come to merge visible, which isn't available in Designer, because I've done all this in Photo where you can merge visible. So what I may have to do is export this as a JPEG in that size, whole document, 100% quality. So let me just export that, and I'll just call this test for quickness. Then I can close that, and close that one. So this is the 1200 by 1200 background that I just made. I now need to open that test JPEG I made, which is that one, and then I'm going to right click that, copy, and then paste that image into my background. So I'm then just going to move this down here for now. I'm then going to duplicate that, so I'm going to right click this and duplicate, and then I'm just going to move this over, and I can zoom in just to make sure that there's no gap here, which there is. So I'm going to just click on it, and then I'm going to use the arrow keys just to nudge that over once. Yes, that's okay, that's lined up. So I'm going to click on that again, and then I'm going to flip this horizontally like so. Then I'm going to select both of these. I'm going to hold down the control key and click both the second layer, and then right click that and group those together. Let me just zoom out slightly. Now I'm going to right click and duplicate that group, and then I'm going to move this upwards and just have a quick zoom in to make sure that, right, so I need to come down slightly and maybe just come to the right slightly. So again, I'll click on that, use the arrow keys just to nudge it one pixel at a time. No, I think it needs to go back to the left. That's it. That's not 100% perfect, but it's close enough, I think. Right, let me zoom out again. So I'm going to click on this top group, and this time I'm going to flip it vertically. So we had the 4 reefs in the center area, and then I'm going to click on, hold down the control key, click on this bottom group, and make another bigger group out of all of those squares. So this now means as it's a group I can move them around. So I'm going to center this, because this is where we're going to be making copies and changing the blend mode. So first I'm going to right click this group, duplicate it, and change the blend mode to lighten. Now if I bring the cursor to just above this white handle up here, it will change to a double-sided arrow, and if I hold down the shift key, when I click and drag this, it will move it in, I think it's 15 degrees steps. So I'm just going to move this round once, and then I'm going to press Ctrl and J to duplicate that, and it will power copy. I just keep pressing Ctrl and J enough times until I've got the completed circle, which I haven't quite yet because I haven't got all the white ones going around there, so I'll keep pressing Ctrl and J until all the white ones have joined up, which I think there might just be room for one more, but it may not work so well, so I'm going to leave it at that. So what I'm going to do now, the top layer is already highlighted. I will come down to the bottom layer, hold down the Shift key and click on that, so it will highlight all of those, and I will then group all those together. So that is now my sort of graphic mandala finished. All we need now is sort of this background to be filled in a bit more, so we need black, so I'm going to add a pixel layer, drag it below the group, but I'm going to fill that with black. There we go. And now I can save this and use it possibly to make a style out of. So this is how you can make a graphic mandala rather than a drawn mandala, and you're not restricted to images or brushes. You could use shapes and have them all sorts of different colors, because I did one, where is it? I did this in photo. I made 3 of them here, which I did in photo. Let's have a look at that one, which I've made just from shapes rather than graphics. So you're not restricted to graphics, but as this was a tutorial on vector brushes, I use graphics to make this. So that is it basically. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.